Howdy y'all, and welcome to Political Us. A couple weeks after the November election, we hosted our second virtual town hall entitled Expectations for the Next 4 Years. We asked friends and family from around America questions about what they expected the next 4 years under Joe Biden to look like. The goal was to hear what excited us, worried us, and what gave us hope. This series is to share our answers. I encourage you to listen in and afterwards, down in the comments, share your thoughts. It's the only way that we'll learn. One last thing, if you believe we need to make politics more about us, feel your opinion wasn't represented, or want to see more from this town hall, subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell. More town halls are coming in the future, and we want you to be involved. In this segment, we discuss the divide between facts and beliefs. Expert knowledge is being overshadowed by fundamental beliefs. Should it be, and how does faith get confused with a belief? Let's see what our participants had to say. Enjoy! But this one is really more for the both sides are at fault group, right? So I've progressed through each category. Now we'll probably jump around a little bit once we get through this first one. But the both sides are at fault. It's about facts and beliefs. The Republican Party has been rooted in having a belief and then seeking nuggets of truth to justify the belief. Democrats tend to look at the facts and then the belief emerges. Is the clash of reality and belief truly a both sides problem? So when we look at our current landscape and we say, okay, both sides are at fault for the bickering. Both sides are at fault because of how we're handling voter fraud, right? So I turn there and go, there's one coin that for 4 years, 6 years, if you really add it up, has been prepped that voting is fraudulent in America. If candidate A loses, it will be because of fraud. So now that candidate A has lost, fraud, and we're looking for fraud. There's got to be fraud somewhere. We believe there's fraud. We're looking for fraud. Okay. On side B, you've got, okay, well, show us the evidence. You want to recount? Recount. You want to show the proof? Let's look for proof. Nobody's saying we can't recount. Nobody's saying Trump can't take legal action. So prove it first. And if you look across our landscape, that's a lot of what's happening. A lot of what's happening now is, I believe this, now let me find nuggets of truth to make that belief somewhat reliable versus that's not really the reality of what we're dealing with. I believe masks don't work. Okay, well, the reality is, well, the virus will still go through the mask, but the point is to, limit water droplets. That's what we're looking for. So is there a way when you say that, well, it's both sides at fault, is it truly both sides that are causing the issue? And if so, what is it?
I'll jump on that.
Sure.
Oddly enough, Chris, the funny thing is what you just described is actually exactly how the scientific method works. You're like, I think this is right. Let's try and prove it. That's how science works. That's how you put a man on the moon. That's how you build a Zoom platform that allows people from all over the country to talk all at once. So it's kind of interesting that you bring that up. That it's like, that's kind of the scientific method in a way is, oh, we think this is true. The real trick to the science, though, is being like, well, the data doesn't support what I think, right? That's the difference, is that some people are like, I believe this no matter what the evidence says. But I don't necessarily think it's a side thing, because it's like, it isn't just like a Republican or Democrat side. There's also the Libertarian Party and the Green Party and a whole bunch of other ones that I didn't know existed until I actually read the ballot. So I think we've gotten to the point where we are okay with the bickering, or at least not so much being okay, but being to the point where we've accepted it as something that happens. Doesn't mean that it should happen.
Okay. I like you made me think on your part about the scientific method, because I'm a big believer in it, and I agree with, I was following you, and then you said, but the data has to match, and I was like, okay, there it is. I agree, I'm with it. I'm right there with it. Go ahead, Aaron.
My thing is, and I mentioned it earlier, is perspective. I live in the Philly suburbs. My life is totally different from someone living in a Kansas farm. And I think it's really easy for both parties and every single party in between to assume certain things about the other party. And I think that's one of the main reasons we are where we are. I mean, we could bring in social media and certain news groups and things like that. But overall, I think there's a lack of understanding that my life is totally different than the person in farmland, Kansas. You know, it's perspective. We have to put ourselves in other people's shoes of why things might be concern or not a concern. You know, someone in rural Kansas, what's the black population there? 0.005%. Why would they care about Black Lives Matter? You know, it sucks, but it's not on their radar.
So do you all think it's just coming down to the fact that we're living in these silos, that social media or the media itself that we follow, it's just encouraging our beliefs and we're not really seeking out those different perspectives, and that's why we're having this huge divide?
I'm going to say no, because I live in Seattle. It is predominantly white. And believe me when I tell you, people in Seattle care about Black Lives Matter, for sure. So it's not so much just like a color of the skin thing or anything like that. Believe me, like, I know that Seattle is like very liberal and has been, but
I have to say I disagree. I grew up in Pennsylvania. They do not give a we went camping a few weeks ago and there was a Trump parade getting ready at Cabela's. And that's an hour outside of Philly. So you can talk about Seattle, but I'm talking about my experiences. Pennsylvania is Pennsylvania for a reason.
So let me ask, and Bianca, I want to go back to your question, and Mark, I want to let you finish your thought because I think you were going somewhere with that. I really feel like the question though is like, is it more about like we're in our silo, we're in our own silo, like we're in our echo chamber? Is that what you were asking, Bianca?
Well, I guess if it's like an echo chamber of like skin color, no. Maybe if it's a skin color of political affiliation, yes. Because again, Seattle will always vote Democrat from now for 100 years. That's not going to change. It gets deeper into the blue every single time. So it's not necessarily a skin color. It's just, different parts of the country have different political leanings depending upon who makes up that population at any given time.
And what about the media itself promoting one side versus the other versus actually more moderate?
That's actually a really good point, because there was one of the Seattle Times backed a Democratic candidate, and I just laughed at myself. It's like, well, of course they did. They were the Seattle Times. But again, I mean, you step outside of downtown Seattle, and Washington itself is actually quite Republican. I mean, there were a lot of Trump-Pence signs. You go outside of King County, and there were Trump-Pence signs everywhere. So, I mean, you kind of have these microbiomes of culture, and it can be a square mile wide. So it's not necessarily like, it may be individual silos, but it's not necessarily like some people don't care. It's, it depends where you go.
So do you guys think that's why maybe pollsters have continued to get polls wrong because of these micro silos, or is it people not being honest when they're responding?
No,
or
people straight up lied. I mean, I didn't vote for Trump, but I wouldn't have said that I voted for Trump either. Like, I would have, if somebody asked me, are you going to vote for Trump? And even if I was, I still would have lied.
So just out of curiosity, has anyone here, or do you know of anyone that's ever actually been polled?
I never have.
I've never been polled. I don't know a single person that has. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm about to meet some people that have been actually polled. So when were you guys polled? How did that work?
I actually signed up for YouGov, And so based on my demographics, they will send me surveys and then I will respond. So some of them are, who did you vote for, political leanings, that kind of thing. Other things are whatever's happening socially. How do you lean towards that? So, I mean, I volunteered for it. I've never actually been called, but I still feel like it is, like when we had the first debate, CBS had a survey that went through YouGov and they were like, hey, make sure you watch it and then we're going to survey you and then we're going to share the results immediately after. So like I was actually a part of that survey that followed CBS right after the first presidential debate.
So it's like the Nielsen ratings.
Yeah.
Okay. Boy, you've been part of it as well?
So I think just because of, I think I was just liking or following a lot of either political pages or politicians. And so I actually got a message through Instagram that I looked up that was, was looking on the air of like legitimate, and it pulled over like an 8-week period. And it was basically like, hey, please don't look up, X, Y, or Z information. Please tell us how well do you know how our politics work. They don't show you the results in that. We're like, oh, you were wrong because you said, yes or no or whatever. But and then it eventually asks you who are you most likely to vote for at this point? And then 2 weeks later, it asks that question again to see if it changed.
Oh.
As someone who really tries to balance what we believe and the facts associated with it, I struggle with this. So I'm going to pose the question to you guys. The Republican Party has been rooted in having a belief and then seeking nuggets of truth to justify the belief. Democrats tend to look at the facts and then the belief emerges. Is the clash of reality and belief truly a both sides problem? And I will use mask as my example. So going back to the personal freedom, right? So back in March and April, when masks were starting to be a thing, there was a big push to it's personal responsibility. People should, it's my family's responsibility. It's mine and my family's responsibility to wash our hands. It's mine and my family's responsibility to, if we're sick, to not go outside. The government shouldn't tell me what to do.
Right.
That was the reaction, right? The reaction was, don't tell me how to wear a mask. Don't tell me. And then we started to do hints of truth to match that. And what I mean by that is, well, COVID doesn't stop the spread of, a mask doesn't stop the spread of COVID. Well, that was the sentence, but the reality was correct. The coronavirus is not stopped by a mask, but the projectiles that come out of your mouth as you speak and as you sneeze and as you cough, that's what a mask actually limits. Right? So there was a hint of truth to a mask doesn't stop COVID, which is why I shouldn't have to wear one. It's a personal responsibility. And again, I know that's a very generalized. I actually got a couple comments from people who aren't joining us today that said, that's the question that shows it's biased. Well, I'm trying to convey that that's typically how it happens, right? This is how I feel about something. I feel immigrants shouldn't be coming to America and stealing our jobs. So I'm going to go find evidence of that. For me, is facts and beliefs, is that truly, and the clash of reality and what we believe, is that truly a both sides problem in America?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's a human problem.
So give me some examples how it's a both sides problem.
I see some inconsistencies.
There we go, Kevin. I got him in the conversation. All right. I figured I'd poke and prod. All right, go ahead, man.
So this probably comes down to which news organizations you might watch, because obviously whichever side you're slanted to and the organization that backs that up, they're going to cherry pick videos and pictures that back up their thoughts and beliefs a little more than videos and pictures that don't. So I've seen a variety of examples of people criticizing President Trump in whether it's news conferences or whatever it might be, having their mask on when the camera's on them, and then the mask coming off when it's off. So some of this is, I think, is just for show. Now, I absolutely believe in wearing the mask, and I'm doing it wherever I go. I've got one on, but And this goes back a little bit to the question I missed a little while ago of can there be how, are we too far gone to be able to compromise or communicate or whatever, however that question was. I see inconsistencies from do as I say, not do as I do. So that frustrates me when stuff like that doesn't show up or get talked about. When some of those inconsistencies are shown on certain channels, they're not going to get shown. So the majority of the public out there doesn't think any of that's going on. And I see a video of it going on, and I'm thinking, wait a second, why isn't anybody talking about this? It's because it's not being shown. So I just get frustrated. And I'll say I voted for Trump too. I think he's a total jerk. But I think he was the lesser of two evils. That's kind of the way I vote is who's going to hurt me the least, not who's going to help me the most. But I just get frustrated by it's seemingly one slanted toward news or information slanted towards one side. And if you're depending on who you're watching, you may never see some information that contradicts that thought.
So the eternal echo chamber. Right? Like I only hear the information I want to hear.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
People tend to only read or look or study what their views are to find something that agrees with me so I can validate why I feel the way I feel.
And what I was going to say a little while ago was just the idea of tolerance. I hear from a non-conservative side, well, y'all are just intolerant. But on the more liberal side, potentially, no, they're tolerant towards people who agree with them. They're not necessarily tolerant towards people that disagree with them.
Exactly.
I see a lot of hypocrisy there, and people don't get called out on it.
You know, going back to you saying that about people with saying the government wasn't going to tell them they had to wear a mask. All of you all are too young to remember this, but seatbelts.
Oh, I remember seatbelts.
I remember my father saying, Mr. Ford car driver, nobody's going to tell me I have to wear a seatbelt. It's my choice. Well, before he died, he would get in the car and put a seatbelt on before he even started it. It just became, and when you try to tell people that are just not going to wear the mask until somebody, wherever they're shopping or whatever they're doing, till someone says, you got to have a mask on or you got to go. To me, that is just, I can't even comprehend even having to be told that. But then again, it's like, it's no big deal to put on a seatbelt. It's no big deal to put a mask on.
Well, I will tell you the one thing that kind of irks me about the whole mask thing is I know there was a big push to the government can't tell me to wear a mask, but the amount of people who say nothing when a corporation tells them to do it. I found that a little alarming in American society where we're all about our freedoms that, if the government tells me to wear it, no. But if I can't go to Walmart without a mask on, well, I guess I'll put my mask on reluctantly. That's it for this segment. If you like the conversation, make sure to hit that like button and let us know you enjoyed the content. Leave a comment if you have more to add, and make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Thanks for watching and helping to make politics more about us.